What's up, everyone? How you guys doing? Today, we need to talk about new warriors. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the current state of the team and also what has happened to them for them to be led into this state. I think many people agree that the new warriors team has fallen off, and with season 10 coming around, this is recorded just before before the last week of season 9. So season 10 is about come. I don't know the new room rules, but this video may age either like fine wine or like milk, depending on the situation. But anyways, today, all right, so I think everyone agrees that they've fallen off, and today we're going to be looking at why that has happened, why they have why they're in the current state that they're in, and also to debunk one of the biggest myths about the new warriors team. So before we carry on, do note that I stream live on Twitch, link in the description below, and let's begin. So before we talk about the new warriors team, the 5-piece, we need to look at its origin as a 3-piece. So it started with Dagger, Cloak, and Deathpool, which, as some of you may not know, was MSF's second OG character. So what happened was that at that point in time, the Doom raids were first released, which was the first raids that required the 5 origin types of the game, and there was no mystic option at that point in time, and the new warriors team came in to be a solution for the players. So just a brief rundown of their kits, because I can't do like 5 in-depth reviews as I did for Black Knight for the new warriors team. Also, by the way, most of this video is based on CC, because obviously they are CC team. They're pretty garbage elsewhere, except like a few niche cases in like Dark Dimension or even in War. So yeah, it's mostly a CC video. But anyways, Deathpool. So Deathpool being the star of this team, or at least this trio, Deathpool has a very unique charge mechanic. Basically, how does she get charged? Either by using her ultimate or by using by spawn on spawn. So on spawn she gets 1. So what happens is that when this charge mechanic reaches the max, which is at 5, you will do a 20,000% piercing damage. This is not a one-shot kill. Many people made that mistake, but basically it's still a massive attack nonetheless. This cannot be revived wasn't there at its initial launch. But basically what Deadpool did was they gave you an option of one-shotting most characters off the bat. So like a Doom in the early days, who was one of the best characters then. The other thing that Deadpool does is that she gives a lot of energy on kill. So to Mystic at that point in time, also to the new warrior allies in raids. And then what does Cloak and Dagger do? So Cloak and Dagger pull out a lot of debuffs, and that ties into Cloak's passive, where if enemy has against offense down, you reduce the speed bar by 15%, and you see that a lot you see that a lot in Cloak's kit, the special, the ultimate, even the basic, and then you see that in Dagger's ultimate as well. And so you see a lot of, the main thing about this trio is that there's a lot of debuffs. Deathpool special, she can spread the debuffs, including stuff like ability block, for example. So really a lot of debuffs in this team. And then eventually, it was a very good option until like Doom 3, where people started to only use that Deathpool and stuff like that. And then and in other game modes, so like in War, they were okay at that point in time. Arena, no one used them, obviously. And then when it came to Dark Dimension, they were pretty decent option, especially Cloak. Dagger was good as well, but because they were starting to fade off, Dagger didn't feel that impactful for the amount of gear they could put, because Dagger's quite expensive. And so eventually they started to be like a decent but unnecessary team. So that was what the new Warriors was facing as a 3-piece. They're decent in CC as well, but mostly against like the Underworld team that was still relevant at that point in time. And then Scopely, in about season 2, season 3, introduced a very controversial room rule. It is probably one of the most controversial things that they have done in the game, but it's particularly in CC, the most controversial thing that they have done was to introduce this room rule. Let me try to find it because I know it's in this blog post. The creeping spiders room, right? What this basically is that it gave it basically made Tangled Web a lot stronger. It also gave the Tangled Web tab, in particularly in this room, the Tangled Web tag to the Eternals characters as well as Cersei and Icarus, and that gave a lot of benefits like revive and immunity on spawn if you had, which you obviously you have both, right? And then it just became very, very hard to kill at that point in time. The only reliable way of killing them was to mirror. If I'm not wrong, it was the Tangled Web duo. You can always use Icarus and Cersei, but people use Undying with Emma, and then depending on the fifth. So at that point in time, right, Tangled Web was only like a duo because people started to drop Noir from the very beginning because he didn't really give a lot of value to the team. And in typical Scopely fashion, what Scopely did was that they decided they created a problem, the Tangled Web room, and then they started to sell a solution, and that solution was the New Warriors rework. So for the New Warriors rework for the existing three, they didn't really have a lot of changes. The only massive change was that obviously they had the New Warriors and Mystic tag. So whatever there was only for Mystic in the past was added to New Warriors because Firestar isn't Mystic, she's a mutant. So you see all this like all this New Warrior thing getting added in. And the other change is that the ultimate, as I mentioned earlier, they added the cannot be revived part, but everything for Dagger and Cloak's kit, besides the stat changes, was just to add the New Warriors tag to their abilities. All right, and then they released two characters, as I mentioned, Firestar and Gwenpool. Unfortunately, I didn't find the Gwenpool block, but we will look at Firestar's kit. So Firestar basically ties into the cloak passive, right? Her main part of the kit is the ultimate, which puts trauma and heal block and offense down. This repeats this happens 4 times because you repeat it 3 times, so it's a lot of rewind through her ultimate. And the one thing that you see with Firestar and also with Gwenpool is that in their passive there's this thing that has the 50% accuracy in CC. So basically in CC offense, and this is really, really important because obviously, as many people know, Spider Weaver, the charge means that you have lower accuracy by 100%. So by having both Firestar and Gwenpool in the team, you're able to bypass that charge mechanic. And even if she has the charges out by using her ultimate, you can still bypass it nonetheless. And so they basically created, like I mentioned, they created a problem and sold you the solution, typical Scopely fashion. But even so, they were still pretty decent and they were still dishing out a lot of damage. And they became one of the best teams in the game mode eventually. So before I continue, right, I think in my Black Knight video, I did mention this, which is basically for a character, or in this game, a team to be good, it needs to fulfill 3 criteria. The first is obviously to have a good kit, second is to have good stats, and the third one is to work in the environment that it is placed in. And so in this case, at that point in time, New Warriors did fulfill these 3 criteria. They had very good stats, it had very good scaling, it had very good kit. All right, these kits were basically designed to, at that point in time, to counter the Tangled Web team. And also, the environment, it was, just tailor-made for the CC mode, and they crushed everything. And I think that's where I want to talk about the myth that I mentioned earlier, right? When this season of the Tangled Eternals room left, a lot of people were worried about the New Warriors team because they felt that they're going to fall off, and because the team that they were meant to counter, the team they were designed to counter, didn't really work anymore. And in my opinion, I highly disagree with that statement for a few reasons. The first is, of course, that at that point in time, currently in season 3 of CC, people were already using New Warriors to beat the other meta defenses that were seen. People may not remember this, especially if you're not playing at that point in time, but Gamma was one of the strongest teams on CC defense, and people were already struggling with that. With them, you needed like Dom with like Dark Hole. People took unlimited off defense just to use them on offense, kind of stuff. And but the New Warriors were able to dispatch of them very, very quickly. The only team that I could think of that they couldn't really counter was what's this team called? Not Dark Hole, because obviously Morgan Le Fay does counter mystic characters. They were able to beat Unlimited, the best team at the very first CC team. Once their revive room was gone for them, they were able to beat them very, very easily. They were able to beat they weren't able to beat the War Dogs in the Vibranium tuning room, but once that was gone, they were able to beat them as well. And so from the very start, unless there was special implications or if there was MILF in there, Morgan Le Fay, they were able to beat most of the teams. People managed to even use the New Warriors to beat Bifrost when the raid rules was first introduced. It was RNG, but it still worked. And so I think that comes down to the point that the New Warriors were not specifically made for the Tangled Web Eternals team. They were made for much more. They just happened to specifically counter them in that sense. And therefore, this argument of the New Warriors were only a Tangled Eternals counter and that's why they're falling off is false, because they continued to destroy most of the meta teams that came out afterwards. They managed to beat teams like Secret Defenders, at a point in time, and a very strong arena team. Yes, they didn't have the arena buffs and everything, but they were able to beat them pretty effortlessly, as long as you did the right thing, right? And so yeah, and I think before I move on to why they are falling off, I think I'd like to really point out two of the main reasons why I think that the New Warriors team is very, very strong. And the first is that the New Warriors team is designed to flow into each other. What I mean by this is that the New Warriors team is designed in particular where every move that you make with a character, right, is intentional. The next move can only succeed and it can only happen because of the previous move, right? So it feels like like you play video games like fighting games. I'm not comparing Marvel Strikers to a fighting game, by the way, but how in fighting games when you pull off a wonderful you pull off a combo with your characters, like in Street Fighter, and it feels satisfying. And that is what the New Warriors feels like, because every character that takes a turn, the move that you make is intentional, and it leads to the next character's move and the next character's move, especially for the first three characters that move, which is Gwenpool, Firestar, and Deathpool. So when you use Gwenpool, for example, Gwenpool goes first. Gwenpool was special, and this will flip buffs, especially taunt. All right, it will flip taunt as well. And then Firestar will go in and then we'll use the ultimate for the rewind and offense downs. And then Deathpool will come in and special and spread the offense downs as well. And then yes, and this is like the main part of the New Warriors team. It's just you never ever deviate from this path. You never basic with your characters, and you will always use this because that's just the way for the team to snowball. All right, and so yeah, basically that's what it is. This is a team that snowballs very, very well. Each move that you take will feed into each other. Eventually Cloak and Dagger will take their turns, then Gwenpool will ult, and then you finish off with Deathpool's ultimate. And I think if I mention this, and this goes to the second point of why they're the main selling point of the team, is the synergy between Gwenpool and Deathpool. So earlier I mentioned about how initially Deathpool gains charges. So when Gwenpool came out, I forgot to mention this. When Gwenpool came out, besides the accuracy buff that she gives, what happens is that on chargeable new warrior ally turn, which is either Firestar or Deathpool, sorry, you give in CC, you give 2 charges on their turn. What this means is that Deathpool on her very first turn, she actually gets 3 charges. 1 for the on-spawn charge, and 2 where she takes a turn due to Gwenpool's passive. And so basically, as long as Gwenpool's alive, you are able to, at the very beginning, use Deathpool's out on her second turn, and subsequently you can continue to use Deathpool's out every 3 turns. And that is a broken ass ability because as you see the multipliers on her kit, 20,000% piercing is crazily high. And so, and that's the second selling point. You're able to at least provide consistent nuke damage from Deathpool by her synergy with Gwenpool. So the 2 synergies, the snowballing of the New Warriors team. That's the first part. And the second is the ability to nuke, to provide nuke damage through Gwenpool and Deathpool. And so you can see the synergy between the team, right? Especially the 3 main members, the Gwenpool, Deathpool, and Firestar, being able to, and all of this just leads to the team being a very powerful weapon in Crucible. And so then what happened to them? And I think it's pretty ironic because, as I mentioned earlier, they were able to beat Secret Defenders, but we all know that Secret Defenders, not many people brought up Strange, and people are finding a good fit for them. And someone, in a very cruel twist of fate, right? Because the New Worlds was released to counter the Tangled Web members, and at that point in time, the Tangled Web members was basically 2099 and Spider Weaver. But ironically, the one character that kind of exposed the weakness of New Warriors was the forgotten 3rd member, Spider-Man Noah. And just as a brief introduction to his kit, basically he gets a lot of speed bar on spawn. Not this one, sorry. He gets a lot of speed bar on spawn when enemies get positive effects, because the New Warriors gain a lot of positive effects on spawn, he usually goes first. What happens is that he goes first and he clears the, he outs, and obviously they spawn with 2 evades, which I think is Gwenpool's passive. Yeah, they spawn with 2 evades in Crucible. And so okay, I need to find the I'll talk about this as I find Heartlight's kit. Okay, so basically what happens is that generally the reason why normal New Warriors can beat normal SDs because you're not able to rewind. So basically what happens is that this first part, the flip taunt to defense down, is the first layer of trying to remove the evades. And then because they all have 2 turns of evades, you have 1 turn left, and then the attack will miss because there's a second layer of evades. So Heartlight's not able to rewind anybody. However, with Noah's ultimate is able to remove, not this one. Noah's ultimate is able to remove evades from the first layer of evades from at least 2 to 3 enemies, depending if he hits the side or not. And then if Heartlight was to go and ultimate on any of these characters that had their first layer removed, because this part removes 1 evade from everyone, and then if she hits onto somebody that was previously hit by Noah, then their person will get rewound. And then you will hear people say, okay, if Firestar gets rewound, the game is over. And that may be true, right? But I argue that if Gwenpool or Deathpool got rewound as well, right? If either one of these 3 got rewound, then the fight is over because you're not able to attack in order. All right, if you look back at the stats, all right, as I was showing earlier, all right, you look back at the stats. Oh my gosh. You look back at the stats of the New Warriors, and these stats are all like pretty okay. Look at this speed stat. Gwenpool is 127, Firestar is 126, Deathpool is 125. This is intentional because Scopely Scopely and designing his kit wanted at least these three members to move in order, so that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, so that Gwenpool can do her stuff, Firestar can do her stuff, and Deathpool can do her stuff. By having either one of these three characters getting rewound, you are preventing that exact snowballing synergy that I mentioned earlier that was a strength. And so Noah, through his introduction, exposed the one problem that the main weakness of the New Warriors. So the main strength, right, of the New Warriors team, the snowballing, all right, the being able to lead into each member's attacks, was not possible anymore. And it wasn't possible, but it was greatly exposed as his greatest weakness if you're not able to do it, because Noah was able to expose it in tandem with Miss Marvel Heartlight. I think this is the start of the fall of the New Warriors team, by disrupting that synergy between the five members, especially the three main ones, Deathpool, Firestar, and Gwenpool. Right, then you're not able to provide the basis for their snowballing. You're not able to provide the basis for them being able to provide massive damage to the enemies, and then you cannot let Firestar, like, so let's say, for example, if Firestar got not Firestar, all right, let's say even if Gwenpool got rewound, Gwenpool cannot go first, Gwenpool cannot special, cannot remove taunt, and then what is Firestar going to out into? And of course, we talk about Firestar, she can't rewind people, and then if Deathpool gets rewound, Deadpool's gonna go after Dagger. Deadpool cannot spread, all right, cannot put out more damage and cannot put out more rewinds. And so I think that's where the main problem comes in for the New Warriors team. And so, as I said, very ironic that it was Noah that exposed this. But yeah, you know, it really showed a lot of issues with the New Warriors team from that point on. And as time went on, Scopely released more characters that exposed that issue. Right? Earlier I mentioned about how Unlimited Unlimited became very easily beaten by the New Warriors. And then Scopely released a Nightcrawler, a character that actually goes before them, because the New Warriors is actually pretty fast because they get 30% speed bar on spawn for the full team. But Nightcrawler still goes before them. You know, he does his special, he gives them all speed up, they all get the speed bar. Sorry, they get speed bar, you know, they all are able to go before they're all able to go before New Warriors. They start to wreck stuff. You know, if Rogue's there, she's taunting with Safeguard, you can't clear it. And I think, and as times went on, Path with Spider Society, now we have the Annihilators, which is becoming a big staple on defense. So yeah, it just started to expose more and more of this problem with the New Warriors team. And of course, there's certain room rules that kind of affected it as well. Currently in room 5, we have that room where you clear all the positive effects. That kind of affects them as well, because they really rely on the buffs for their damage and also for evades and stuff, for protection. Especially for Gwenpool, right? So we talk about the second part about the team, right? Gwenpool needs to survive for Deathpool to do nuke damage. And with all that buffs being removed, then she's not able to survive as easily. And if she dies, then you cut off that supply of nuke damage to Deathpool for her 5 charges, for her ult with 5 charges. And so yeah, that's how it is. Is there any future hope for the New Warriors team? Well, people started to drop Dagger for other options. At the beginning, when the Noah team was there, people used Lizard, and while Lizard was fine, Lizard also gains a lot of buffs on spawn, and that just means that Noah's gonna go twice as much, right? And if your team is small, then you're not going to survive eventually, because Noah's going to take so many turns, he's going to do so much damage, especially in current times with his rework. Keep in mind, this Noah that ruined the New Warriors team was pre-rework, pre-Spider Society Noah. All right, so current Spider Society Noah with bigger stats is going to be crazy against them. You know, people started using them with like Echo. You know, there's that one room with the all strikers kind of thing, and then there was also the what's this thing called? people started using Guardian because Guardian gives the teams offense up on spawn, and people started using them for niche cases like almost for money. Firestar, if it's big enough, is able to one shot or kill off Old Man Logan, and you're able to secure the rest of the fight. Then the same problem came about. People started putting in characters like Noah with Old Man Logan, started putting Nightcrawler with Old Man Logan, and then the problem and the cycle just keeps repeating itself. There's only so much you can do by putting a character like Guardian there or a character like Echo there to prevent the assist, where the team starts to not become New Warriors anymore. And I think that as time went on, people are just starting to move away from the New Warriors. And I never even mentioned about Superior 6, because Superior 6 through .org just became an immediate counter to the team. And so I think that the New Warriors, unfortunately, is starting to really fall off. I think that going forward, New Warriors' value may not even be tied to the team, but through their individual, they'll be part of other teams. You really see Deadpool is already part of the Most for Money with Old Man Logan, and that's mostly for war and stuff. I won't be surprised if Firestar actually finds a home elsewhere eventually, especially like she does work pretty well with with Ghost Rider Robbie for example. We might see some nice stuff over there with the Blitz through her ultimate. But ultimately, I think that the New Warriors team the days are numbered. And like I said, this may age like wine or this may age like milk, depending on what happens when the room rules are announced at the CC Envoy tournament. But yeah, I think that what's going to happen is that this team will either be at most a team that can beat off old meta teams, or as a cleanup team. And I think it's pretty sad. As I mentioned, I like the New Warriors team, but I think that we need to really take note of where it has been. And I think the purpose, as I mentioned, the purpose of this video is to actually point out the issues with the team, which is not that they were only designed for Tangled Web Eternals, is that their main part of the kit was heavily exposed, and people and the newer teams just started to take advantage of that, right? At this current day and age, the New Warriors team to me is like, okay, like let's look at another team, right? Another team that released around that time, the Masters of Evil. If I were to bring Masters of Evil into a fight, depending on the power size, you can say that the Masters of Evil is like, it may have a 60% chance of winning, a 80% chance of winning, a 40% chance of winning. The fluctuation between whether they can win or not is about, there's a wide range. In my opinion, when it comes to the New Warriors team, it is either a 100% or a 0%. So the New Warriors team either beats the team and at a pretty good rate, right? Or they either get crushed by the team that they're facing. And I think that's really the problem, because the team isn't reliant on his stats. Although he has decent stats, at least at that point in time, the team is reliant on his kit and his environment so greatly that the moment you disrupt it, it gets ruined. And I think that that's whether is it the fault of Scopely for overlooking that, I'm not going to say anything about it. But because it is designed that way, and by looking at its design, we find these weak spots, and then the purpose of this video is for me to bring those points out. And so, like I said, the New Warriors team, unfortunately, it is in a situation because of its kits, because of its design, and as I said, I feel very sad because they're one of my favorite teams that I've ever used in Marvel Strike Force, but it has come down to this, and unless they get above in the future, it will be what it currently is, just a free fall and eventually into obscurity. But what do you guys I'm sorry, I have a bad cough, right? You can hear from my voice for the entire video, it's been pretty bad. But what do you guys think? Do you guys agree that new wars are falling off, or do you think that new wars is going to have their last chance soon to prove the doubters wrong? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video as well, don't forget to thumbs up, share, and subscribe. And do note that I stream live on Twitch. Link is down in the description below. Hopefully the next video my voice is a lot better. But I really appreciate you guys coming by. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, be good to yourselves and the people around you. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.